there can be only one. May it be Duncan McLoud.
The decade that gave timeless classics like Friends and Buffy the Vampire Slayer was popularly known as the golden era of television. Undeniably so, since the shows that populated our screens once a week and VHS tapes still hold such a special place in entertainment history. The common thread throughout all our favorite shows from this era was sincerity. We see characters pour their hearts into the story with a vulnerability unlike before. In this marvelous video, let's count down 15 of the most iconic TV shows of the 90s. Remember Fresh Prince of BelAir? The XFiles? Let's take a trip down nostalgia's lane and talk about it. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 1997. Who could have guessed that an ordinary high schooler would make such a fearless vampire slayer? The TV show is based on the 1992 film of the same name. Buffy, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, was part of a succession of women known as Slayers. They were women who were unwillingly blessed with supernatural abilities of enhanced strength, speed, agility, accelerated healing, and well-rounded senses for solely one purpose. All Buffy wished for was to live an everyday life when she moved to Sunville, California, but her destiny wished otherwise. Buffy met her new Watcher, a man named Giles. Watchers are responsible for training Slayers in their hunt for the creatures of the night, vampires. However, Buffy wasn't alone in her fight against nocturnal monsters. She was accompanied by the trusty friends she met at Sunville High. Willow the Wallflower went on to become a remarkable witch. As the show progressed and came to terms with her sexuality, Xander, who did not possess any supernatural abilities, posed as the comedic relief and also grounded his friends in their humanness. Buffy and her Scooby Gang, as they were called, fought the forces of Hellmouth. Hellmouth was a portal to hell that opened up in our world in season 1 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. As high school dramas go, Buffy falls for Angel, who is known as the vampire cursed with human feelings. How does one deal with falling in love with the very being you are sworn to kill? Buffy the Vampire Slayer has been described as the harbinger of the golden age of TV. Also, being considered one of the best TV shows to exist, it started the long-standing trend of plots with strong female leads who possess supernatural abilities. Anamorphs, 1998. Anamorphs, the TV show, aired in 1998 and was based on the book series of the same name, written by Catherine Applegate. The show follows the story of 6 adventurers, the 5 humans, Jake, Marco, Cassie, Rachel, and Tobias, along with one alien named Aximili Escarith Isthel, or Axe for short. Axe generously bestowed the humans with the rare ability to transform into any animal that they touched. Jake, played by Shawn Ashmore, was the leader of the group and could turn into a tiger as his signature Anamorph. It was revealed that Earth was being invaded by a parasitic race of aliens named the Yeerks, who took control of humans by sneaking in through their hosts' ear canals. The group of Anamorphs came together as a guerrilla force and confronted the slug-like aliens. The Yeerks assumed that the Anamorphs were actually another race of technologically evolved aliens, known as the Andalites. As the show went on, the cover of the Anamorphs was eventually blown. Although the abilities of anamorphing sound extremely cool, they come with their own share of limitations. For instance, they could only stay in their animal forms for 2 hours at the risk of being stuck as a beast forever. Whenever they transformed, their clothes would remain on, resulting in hilarious shots of a tiger squeezed into a kid's t-shirt. Many believe the show was great for the time it was released. Now, the cheesy dialogues and rough CGI definitely need an upgrade in the form of a well-done reboot, since the promising plot deserves more attention than it initially got.
In the end, there can be only one. May it be Duncan McLoud.
Highlander, 1992. The Canadian science fantasy action adventure TV show starred a Scottish Highlander named Duncan McLoud from the clan of McLoud. It was revealed that Duncan was more than 400 years old. He was one of the immortals who were supposed to be part of an ancient tradition known as the Game. The game was played by the immortals by beheading others of their kind and absorbing the energy released by the deceased, known as the Quickening. The Quickening contained all the wisdom and experience possessed by the beheaded immortal. Duncan led a quiet existence with his girlfriend, Tessa, as the pair ran a quaint antique shop together. The Highlander was approached by Connor, his clansman, who insisted that Duncan had to return to the game that he had previously left behind. He reluctantly returned to the one-on-one eternal warfare, after realizing he was being relentlessly hunted by the bloodthirsty Slan Quints. The show mostly revolved around Duncan's interpersonal relationships with his friends, family, and Other Immortals. Season 2 saw the introduction of the Watchers, who, as their name insinuates, observed the actions of the immortals and kept track of their lives. By Season 5, Darius, Amanda, and Methos played the roles of other immortals. The TV show was based on the 1986 film of the same name. Both pieces of art had a great premise. The idea of immortals walking amongst us, trying to live seemingly everyday lives, was an exciting one. A reboot of this show in today's cinematic climate would result in a mystical dark fantasy epic with godly battles. Dinosaurs, 1991. The 1991 family-style sitcom aired on ABC and featured a family of anthropomorphic dinosaurs in the form of life-sized puppets. The show was initially set in Pangaea in 60,000,003 BC. The dinosaur Sinclair family included Earl, Fran, Robbie Charlene, Baby Sinclair, and Grandma Ethel Phillips. Earl Sinclair worked for the seemingly omnipresent Say-So organization by pushing trees over. The name Sinclair Corporation makes a reference to the Sinclair Oil Corporation, perpetuating the belief that petroleum comes from the dinosaurs. One of the most popular characters in the show was Baby Sinclair, who had his signature catchphrase, "Not the mama," as he bonked his father on the head with a frying pan. The members of the Sinclair family were all various species of dinosaurs. The show saw multiple appearances made by humans as well. Earl Sinclair's favorite TV personality is a caveman named Mr. Ugg. A common belief amongst the dinosaurs was that humans are inherently stupid and can never evolve into more intelligent beings. Dinosaurs wasn't just a lighthearted kid show, however, as it subtly dabbled in themes of religion, war, environmentalism, endangered species, civil and women's rights, and censorship, to name a few. The show was a clever satire in the guise of a quirky family sitcom. The series finale ended the show on quite a dark note, with the dinosaurs finally facing the consequences of their own recklessness as they met their demise.
My husband, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
And these are my boys. That's Randy, Mark, and Brad.
Hi, guys.
Home Improvement, 1991. The family sitcom starring Tim Allen first aired on ABC from 1991 to 1997. The story follows the Taylor family, which consists of Tim, played by Tim Allen, who was an avid fan of power tools and professional sports teams. He was often seen wearing the Lions, Red Wings, and Tigers merchandise. He was a clumsy and accident-prone man who still managed to host his own show within the show, named Tool Time, on which he would advertise a variety of power tools as a witty salesman. Even though he would be a disaster on air and off stage, this made his character endearing. His wife Jill was portrayed as a loving wife and mother, a woman who was also world-wise. In later seasons, Jill decided to go back to college in order to study psychology. Their eldest son Brad was the popular school jock and nearly always impulsive. Brad always spoke before he thought, which often got him in hot water. The middle child, Randy, was the comedian of the family who was always ready to dish out snarky remarks and used his brother's impulsiveness as a cautionary tale. Their youngest, Mark, was mercilessly picked on by his two older brothers. He was also shown to be a mommy's boy until he hit his emo phase in the 7th season of the show. Home Improvement was an instant hit with audiences, and it became one of the most watched shows of the decade. The show was a cult favorite for its chaotically funny family dynamics, lovable characters, and well-written plots that earned a special place in people's hearts at that time.
We heard you in the neighborhood. We just had to say hello.
Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, 1995. The 1995 TV show was based on the legend of the Greco-Roman hero named Hercules. The show was based in ancient Greece in an ambiguous time period. The story mainly revolves around Hercules, played by Kevin Sorbo, and Iolaus, his companion, played by Michael Hurst. Audiences enjoyed the far-ranging adventures of the noble Greek hero and his sidekick. The first season saw the duo heroically protect unwitting villages, fight off hellish monsters and greedy warlords, and get roped into the dramatic politics of the gods. The main villain presented in the show was Hercules' seemingly wicked stepmother, Hera. Hera was set on killing the demigod, for he was a constant reminder of her husband, Zeus's unfaithfulness. As the show went on, Hercules found himself confronted by his half-brother, Ares, the god of war. In season 5, the main villain is a cruel god named Dahak, who forces the demigod hero to travel to Samaria in southern Mesopotamia. The show did a great job of portraying not only Greco-Roman cultures, but also Oriental, medieval, and Egyptian cultures in several episodes. Hercules often complained about his father's neglect, but in reality, Zeus always came to his son's aid. The god of the sky even had to revive Hercules by imbuing him with superhuman strength. In the end, the father and son came to terms with their issues and began working through them. The show posed as the blueprint for several fantasy adventure series in the years that followed, and also gifted us with the fantastic spin-off, Xena, the Warrior Princess. The Fresh Prince of BelAir, 1990. Created by Andy and Susan Borowitz for NBC, The Fresh Prince of BelAir was a sensational hit amongst the audiences of the 90s. It ran for 148 episodes throughout 6 seasons. The protagonist was a street-savvy teenager named Will Smith, played by none other than the actual Will Smith. He was initially raised in West Philadelphia, but moved to BelAir in Los Angeles, where his lifestyle stood in stark contrast with his more refined family members. As fans remember fondly, the show always started out with its bassy, catchy theme song and opened with Will Smith up to usual shenanigans. His character was shown as a bright street teenager who had a run-in with a risky gang while playing street basketball. His mother, worried for his safety, sent him to BelAir, where he'd live with his rich auntie Vivian and strict Uncle Phil. The show hilariously chronicled Will trying to blend in with the upper-class cultures of BelAir with his working-class background. Will often clashed with his spoiled and bratty cousins, Hillary, Carlton, and Ashley. The Fresh Prince of BelAir was a turning point in the history of black television. It brought the elements of hip-hop into the spotlight of the mainstream. The ultimate message of the show tells us how tricky it can be to navigate one's self-identity, as seen in Will's realization of how class affects the way his family in BelAir presents their racial identities. The style of insult comedy, general silliness, and occasional fourth wall breaks definitely deserve a rewatch of the timeless show. Baywatch Knights, 1995. The crime drama TV show was a spin-off of the classic 90s show, Baywatch. The show was about lifeguards of the beaches of LA in the City of Angels. Under the cover of night, people are drowning in a sea of light. Sergeant Garner Ellerby, played by Gregory Allen Williams, was amidst a midlife crisis when he decided to start a detective agency. He was joined by his friend from Baywatch, Mitch Buchanan, played by David Hasselhoff, another detective named Ryan McBride, and singer Lou Rawls. The gang takes on different assignments, the likes of helping a high-end model deal with her madman stalker, investigating a gang of robbers who operate on rollerblades, posing undercover as phone sex operators, and many thrilling plot lines. Unfortunately, the show's ratings plummeted after the first season, which prompted the makers to switch to the sci-fi genre. This was inspired by the blinding success of XFiles, which dominated the science fiction scene of the decade. Hence, Season 2 of Baywatch Nights saw Ellerby's detective agencies tackle cases that involved missing sea monsters, a half-human, half-fish serial killer, Haitian voodoo cults, a homicidal vampire, and Vikings being awakened from their 900-year-old cryosleep. We can't deny that the story arcs the show presented were distinct and well thought out, but the execution was far from flawless. With the show missing most of the iconic cast of Baywatch, the show struggled to keep afloat. The makers revealed that the show was meant to explore the camaraderie between the lead characters, but instead, we only got choppy CGI in a show that was visibly trying too hard. The Adventures of Sinbad, 1996. Traversing through the winds of the East, fabled markets, and cardamom-cluttered bazaars was Sinbad the Sailor. The 1996 television series was based on the tales of Sinbad from the Arabian Nights. The fantasy adventure was set in the sandy dunes of the Middle East, with stories of swords and sorcery. After sailing the treacherous seas for 2 years, Sinbad returned to his home in Baghdad. Things have changed since the city was under the iron grip of Prince Qasid and his vizier, Admir. Under the new rule, Sinbad was arrested and put on the list to be beheaded. Fate had other plans in store for the young sailor, as the princess was abducted by the evil sorcerer Turok, and the Caliph of Baghdad demanded that Sinbad was the only man who could deal with the necromancer. Sinbad, his older brother Dubar, and their crew set off in search of the princess. They also headed for the Isle of Dawn to look for Dubar's old mentor, Master Dimdim. Instead, the crew stumbled upon his apprentice Maeve and her companion, Dermot the Hawk. These types of quests undertaken by Sinbad and his crew were often the central premise of the show, heavily inspired by the show Hercules, The Legendary Journeys. Sinbad also tried to revive ratings by switching to darker undertones, a creative decision that backfired entirely, with the genre of fantasy being at a high point of popularity yet again. A reboot in today's day might land well. ER, 1994. The medical drama series is said to have kick-started the trend of medical dramas in the years that followed. Created by Michael Crichton, ER first aired on NBC in 1994. The story follows the medical staff of County General Hospital, a fictional hospital located in Chicago. It mainly focused on emergency room doctors, nurses, and other physicians, in their challenging work lives and the life or death decisions they would have to make. While the show followed a main storyline, the intentionally created tense surroundings added to the show's intensity. There were often instances of overcrowded waiting rooms, the hospital being understaffed, and the training of new doctors, along with the drama of the team's personal lives. The show constantly tugged at its audience's heartstrings, with its fair share of emotional patient deaths, sudden resignations, and dramatic plot twists in general. The original team consisted of Dr. Mark Green, played by Anthony Edwards, Dr. Doug Ross, played by George Clooney, a role that brought his performance into critical acclaim and launched his career. Along with that, Dr. Susan Lewis, played by Sherry Stringfield, and medical student John Carter, played by Noah Wiley. In the mid to late 90s, the show was a massive success and even went on to inspire several storylines in its successors like Grey's Anatomy and House MD. As far as medical dramas go, ER is where it all began.
Check it out, man.
Freaks and Geeks, 1999, a cult classic of the 90s, which was actually set in the 80s. As a classic American teenage comedy, the show was set in a high school in the suburbs of Detroit. The show's main premise was based on the sad, hilarious unfairness of teen life. A teenager named Lindsay Weir, played by Linda Cardellini, started a new year by attending Chippewa High, along with her younger brother Sam, played by John Francis Daly. Lindsay found a gang of friends who were popularly known as Freaks, while Sam's group of friends were known as Geeks. The most recurring characters on the show are the Weir family, Lindsay's ex-best friend who was a religious fanatic, and the popular cheerleader, Cindy Sanders, who was also Sam's crush. Lindsay's story arc saw her changing from a nerdy athlete to a rebellious teenager who slowly fell into a bad company of slackers. Lindsay also often clashed with her friends, since she struggled to make sense of her own identity and felt lost, as though she did not belong. The show artfully represented two cliques, one of the burnt-out misfits who had given up the idea of academic validation, and the other of the nerdy do-gooders who couldn't even dream of acting out and causing trouble. They spoke to the teenagers of the 90s, reassuring them through their confusing adolescence.
It is happening again.
Twin Peaks, 1990. This one was a mystery serial drama created by Mark Frost and David Lynch and premiered on ABC in 1990. The show opened with the gruesome death of homecoming queen Laura Palmer, played by Cheryl Lee. Her body was wrapped in plastic and had washed up on the riverbank. Laura's friend, a girl named Ronette, was also found in a confused trance nearby. Under closer examination, Laura had a tiny letter R stamped underneath her fingernail. It was revealed that this was the signature of a crazed killer who operated all over the country, but originally belonged to Twin Peaks. The case was led by FBI agent Dale Cooper, and Sheriff Harry S. Truman launched the investigation in the small town of Twin Peaks. The first season mostly followed the journeys of Cooper and Truman as they worked hard to solve Laura's case. Cooper had a dream in which an otherworldly entity tipped him off on who Laura's killer really was. Twin Peaks is a classic detective fiction, but was greatly signified with its supernatural elements and characteristics of uncanniness. The show was well received, instantly garnering a niche fan base, which made it a cult classic. The show of murder mysteries was never meant to solve all the murders it presented, but the creators felt pressure to do so. Its paranormal, dark undertones of uneasiness gives the show its title of a timeless classic. X-Files, 1993. The truth is out there, and it was revealed by the famous X-Files. The science fiction drama created by Chris Carter aired from 1993 all the way to 2002. It ran for 202 episodes over 9 seasons. The main characters were from the FBI, special agents, Fox Mulder, played by David Duchovny, and Dana Scully, played by Gillian Anderson. They were mainly responsible for solving the X-Files, bizarre cases that were given minimal priority and written off as unsolvable. Fox Mulder was portrayed as a criminal profiler, supernaturalist, and a conspiracy theorist. He was nicknamed Spooky Mulder, as he firmly believed that his sister was abducted by aliens when they were kids, while Dana Scully was a medical doctor who was assigned to scientifically fact-check Mulder's claim. She was meant to approach all cases put forward by Mulder with a of firm objectivity, an ability which loses its grip as the show progressed. This duo immediately became a fan favorite with Fox's dramatizations, pairing perfectly with Dana's skepticism. The two eventually discover the government's hidden plan to keep evidence of extraterrestrial life a secret from the people. X-Files has been knighted as a cultural touchstone for its tremendous impact on pop culture. The show's aesthetics forever changed visual TV, set trends in serialized storytelling, and was groundbreaking in its approach. The Outer Limits, 1995. The Outer Limits was a horror sci-fi show that first aired in 1983 and was then relaunched in 1995. Following the successes of the X-Files and Star Trek: The Next Generation, the version of the 1980s primarily focused on monsters and aliens, while its 90s counterpart observed the effects of these creatures on humanity. This is seen in episodes like Dark Reign, which portrayed lethal biological warfare created for the purpose of worldwide sterilization, and the episode Final Exam, in which the deadly abilities of cold fusion power were discovered. Season 1 also saw specimens from Mars escaping their controlled environment and wreaking havoc on the town nearby. An AI companion being built for an extremely lonely disabled man, with the uncannily realistic robot falling in love with him. The development of lucrative drugs and a dying race of aliens trying to revive themselves were common plot lines shown in the series. The Outer Limits was a dark, fantastical fever dream in the form of a sci-fi show. It sadly never received mainstream attention, something it deserved and could get with a well-produced reboot. Star Trek Voyager, 1995. The sci-fi TV show was the fifth installment in the Star Trek franchise. The series was designed to chronologically overlap Star Trek Deep Space Nine to keep the plot going. The pilot episode, titled Caretaker, saw the USS Voyager commandeered by Captain Catherine Janeway as they made their way into the unpredictable Badlands. They were in search of a team of Maquis rebels, but instead ended up on the farthest side of the galaxy. They also encountered a potent energy wave which killed most of the crew on board. The survivors had to find their way home. The show featured the alien Q, who was seemingly omnipotent and often made an appearance in the Star Trek's franchise. The crew also passed by disease-ridden Vidians, barbaric Kazon, Species 8472, and other flesh-eating races of alien. The show also focused on the character growth of the newest additions to the crew of the USS Voyager. It depicted how the crew stood together in the face of adversity, in a universe that has been close to audiences' hearts for many decades now. Star Trek Voyager was praised for its strong female leads, which balanced out earlier, usually male-dominated installments of the franchise. Marvelous verdict. Here we come to the end of our list of 15 shows from the 90s that definitely deserve a reboot. As an ode to nostalgia, it would be heartwarming to see members of the original cast make a return in the reboots. While many are of the belief that original pieces of entertainment should be left untouched, quite a few of these shows didn't receive the attention and praise that they deserved. We hope that possible reboots and revivals do them justice. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.